That aesthetic enough for you, motherfucker? Like it or not, social media is a part of the music industry now. And that's true for artists especially, but it's also true for people like me, who are primarily music producers and sound engineers. In fact, the majority of my potential client base are people who interact with social media consistently, and I find that social media is the best way to reach people, unless I can talk to them face to face, of course, which is best. Because of that, a year ago I decided to integrate social media content into what I do for work. Here's what I learned and how I did it. I want to start this video with a disclaimer, which is that while I enjoy making content, and I will continue to make content, it's never been my top priority. It's not what I want to do primarily with my life. In fact, I'm making content in service of doing other work that I enjoy more. So a lot of decisions that I make around this content aren't really made with the intent on growing my audience the fastest that it can here, but instead slowly and sustainably growing an audience that's going to want to watch the things that I already want to do. This is the point where I diverge from many social media gurus or whatever. I'm not under any impression that the stuff that I'm doing has a massive appeal. Hell, my last video here was a comparison between two microphones. That's a topic so niche that it's useless to most people, and the algorithmic traffic showed that. My hope, of course, is to find the 1% that it is useful for. And realistically, those might also be the people that are going to hire me to do work outside of this platform. So with that frame, let's get into it. I made content for a year. Here's what I learned. The first videos that I posted consistently were cross-posted to both Instagram and TikTok. They were roughly a minute long, either of me playing or of me demonstrating a concept or a technique that I use, whether that's guitar tone or production related. And I very quickly found out nobody gives a shit about information. Now, I'll qualify that. Obviously, a lot of people care about producing music well, but it doesn't matter if your information is good if you're boring, and God was I boring.
So we all know that when you're recording heavy rhythm guitar, you're supposed to double track. You have one track panned hard left and an identical track panned hard right.
My first problem was that I was only posting once a week, if I was even posting on a consistent day, and that's something that I found out very quickly is important. Not really for the algorithm, like I didn't start doing better when I started posting at the same time every day. I mean, maybe a little bit because someone expected me to post at that time, but it made it so that I had a deadline every week to put out something. And I can guarantee you, you're not going to grow if you don't put out stuff. At least for Instagram, I found an algorithmic benefit to posting at least twice a week. Preferably more, but also I have a life. It's worth saying I post all of these short videos to TikTok as well, but I'm not really going to focus on that in this video. It's been weird algorithmically for me for a while, and also it might be going away in like December or whatever. On the flip side with YouTube, I post here roughly once a month with the exception of 1 week in March where I posted 4 times, but they were all kind of part of a mini-series and they could have been crammed together into one, except it would have been a 40-minute behemoth. In terms of what's performed best, on short-form platforms, it's largely been either playing clips or me talking about free plugins. Go figure, everyone likes free. And here on YouTube, my best performing video is my Strandberg video from 2 months ago. I'm still not totally sure why that video did well. There's nothing in it that I can immediately latch onto as like, ooh, people cared about that. In terms of what doesn't work across platforms, really nerdy stuff or like really technical information doesn't tend to get through to people. I don't think I have the size, platform, and the kind of following where someone is going to sit through something dense and technical yet with me. That doesn't mean I don't try, but it does mean those videos tend to get less traffic, less engagement. It's just something to know about. I hope if you too are considering creating content, none of that scared you off, because it really is fun once you get into it. But I do have some tips for you to make it easier, less painful, whatever. The one thing to know about creating content is that it can be really time-consuming, but there are some ways to make that time burden a little less of a problem. The first way to do that, especially for short videos like for Instagram, is to batch film them. What I do now to manage that time is I take 1, 2, 3 days every few months, film a whole bunch of content, and edit progressively as I get towards the release date for that particular video. In the same vein, I'd highly recommend pre-planning a lot of your content. Now, this is a problem if you're relying on like viral trends, but for someone like me who largely isn't, I can foresee pretty far into the future what I'm going to want to post. For me, my YouTube schedule is planned through the end of the year and well into next. In fact, I can tell you with certainty that I have a lot of cool stuff planned. Hit subscribe to stick around for it. But even for short videos, which I'm now posting twice a week, I have a plan through the end of June, and I'm adding on to that most days whenever I come up with an idea. Batch filming doesn't work as well for YouTube, I've found, because the time commitment to make a video is so much greater that it's actually just as effective to block out 2-3 days to make a YouTube video. I'm filming this on May 24th. It's a Friday. This video is going out next Tuesday, but it does need to be done by Sunday night because of some work-related reasons. So maybe that'll give you a helpful frame for how long this sort of thing takes. That's kind of it for time management. As long as you're being intentional about the way that you're spending time creating content, it doesn't have to overtake everything else in your life. I still spend more time working on music than I do working on content. Now, of course, in my heart, I'm a gearhead. That's maybe unsurprising. But the one recommendation I'd give to you starting out is to start with the camera that's in your phone. And I don't say that because I think there's some sin in spending money for buying gear for something that you're really passionate about. Clearly that's not the case. But instead, because if you buy a camera, you need to buy 5 or 10 other things to make it work. These phone cameras are designed to work in a wide range of lighting scenarios with a wide range of color palettes, and the mics in them are decent. On the other hand, the camera I'm using for this, the Lumix G7, doesn't look good unless I have 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 if you count the outside, plus a microphone on top of it, and a tripod to hold it. So we've gone from using something that you carry around in your pocket all the time to a really bulky and costly setup. And if you don't know how to use 1 or 2 components of it, the results are going to look worse. You can go back to the earliest videos that I posted on Instagram. I'm playing the Strandberg, and the footage looks super grainy, and that's because I used this camera and made a couple of critical mistakes. First of all, I filmed it in a dark room. I had to crank up the color in post. I filmed it for horizontal video for a school project, so I was filming like this, and then decided, this should go on TikTok, so I cropped the crap out of it, and so the resolution on it is something like god-awful. Also, a lot of the footage was out of focus because I didn't know how the autofocus on this camera worked. In short, don't do that. You can look at videos I filmed afterward. A lot of those were filmed on my phone, especially the portions of me talking to the camera, and they look miles and miles better, even though I still wasn't thinking about lighting. Having said that, cameras are nice, and I have some thoughts about them. Since January of this year, I've been filming almost all of my videos on the Lumix G7, and it's a really awesome camera, especially for the money, and I'm filming at 4K, which is really helpful for me, but isn't a requirement. Filming at 4K allows me to shoot a slightly wider shot than what I'll probably end up using, and so then when I crop in later in the edit, I'm not actually losing any resolution once I downsample and export at 1080p to send to YouTube. The one thing is, if you were going to film with a camera, you need to also film with lights. I'm using these LED panels that I got because they were on sale when I was looking for them. They're pretty good. They're temperature adjustable, they're pretty bright, they're battery powered, they come with stands. I'm largely happy with them. I'm still getting used to how they work, but a lot of my videos are looking better now that I use them. Once you're done shooting, of course, you're going to need to put all of the footage into an editing software. I personally use Final Cut Pro for most of my work because I owned it and it's fast. If you want something a little more capable that still won't break the bank, I suggest DaVinci Resolve. There is a free version. You can also pay for a version that has more stuff in it. So how has it gone for me after a year of doing this? Well, we'll start with the worst growth and we'll move up to the best. On TikTok, I started out with about 10 followers, I think, and I'm now at 62, which is pretty garbage actually for that platform, but I'm happy with it considering I don't make content that is at all optimized for the TikTok algorithm. I started this YouTube channel in January and posted my first video. Since then, as of filming, I've grown to 60 subscribers, which is incredible, and I'd like to thank every single person who subscribed because that's really cool. And then finally on Instagram, I started with just under 100 followers, and I'm now at 256. A fair amount of that growth, especially on YouTube and Instagram, have come in the last 2 months, which makes me optimistic because it was kind of a slow start to growth, and I'm now gaining a lot more traction on those platforms, especially on Instagram. My views have shot up immensely in the past few months. A couple of caveats to note. About 40 or 50 of those Instagram followers came from one post where I called out the school that I go to for posting a really insensitive message about generative AI use in art. I assume most of those people are other students at my school, but honestly, I don't really know. And then here on YouTube, the vast majority of my subscribers have come, again, from the Strandberg video, which has miles more views than anything else I've ever made. But it's worth saying that that's the nature of these platforms. Some posts are going to do really well and are going to bring in a lot of new followers or new subscribers or whatever it calls them. And some are going to kind of tank. Like today, I put out a video on TikTok. It's doing horribly. But going back to my original point, my goal was never really to become huge on these platforms. It was to fuel my other creative work. So how's that going for me? When I first started doing this a year ago, I was working on one EP for one artist. Now that project has since been released and I've had a whole year to network and meet people, but I'm now working on several more projects in different capacities. Some of those were undoubtedly influenced by the fact that I had shown my expertise on these platforms, making people more trusting of my skills and my ability to deliver a quality product. However, the vast majority of those people knew me personally before ever getting in contact with me about doing work. So it's kind of questionable how much of a role my online presence played in that. So considering that, what's in it for the future? Well, the first thing is I'm going to try to increase my posting frequency, especially on Instagram. It seems to be the more that I can throw at that algorithm, the better I do. So we're going to go for it. That is going to mean a little bit of doubling up on content, but not really. I'm sure you've noticed that a lot of artists, when they post their own music, they'll post the same clip several times, just with different videos attached to it. I imagine I'll start doing a similar thing, effectively giving the algorithm several chances to take my music and show it to other people. That seems especially worthwhile because those are the least time-consuming pieces of content to make. Of course, the music is already recorded, and all I have to do is play along to it. Here on YouTube, I don't really have the time to increase my posting frequency that much. However, I do feel like I'm getting the hang more and more of creating videos in a style that's conducive to YouTube. So hopefully you'll continue to see the quality of videos go up here, even if they aren't happening more often. And finally, in terms of my online presence, I'm making a commitment on camera, on the internet, to finish my damn website. I'm sure there will be a post when it's live, but I really need to get that out there. It's here that I'm going to kick it to you, because while I have an idea of what I want to be doing for the rest of the year, it's not set in stone, and it doesn't have to be. I'm curious what you want to see from me, what you enjoy watching, and I'll take that into consideration when I'm making content that reflects my own artistic, creative, and production practices. Because while I want all of my content to be an accurate representation of me, I also want it to be through a lens that is palatable and useful to other people. That's the way that I will most likely convert someone who's watching from just a viewer to someone who wants to work with me. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting. Please leave any questions you have for me down in the comments. And while you're down there, hit the like button, hit subscribe. It really helps me out. All of my links are in the description to the other platforms that I'm on. I'd highly encourage you to go check me out there because I do vastly different content to what I show here. Additionally, if you are interested in working with me either as a producer or in any other capacity, you can reach out to me through the email that is linked on my YouTube About page or through my Instagram. I'd love to talk with you about what your project requires and about how my skills might fit into that. That's all from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.